Good afternoon, everyone. Kylie's having some internet difficulties, so I'm going to do the housekeeping before we get started. If you need a certificate of attendance, please email Marilyn after the presentation is over. Kylie has us all down, so I'm trying to think. Please keep yourself on mute and your cameras turned off. And we will have Beth Steckler presenting today. So go ahead, Beth. Beth, if you're talking, you're on mute right now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Beth Steckler. Sorry about that. I work for Pathfinder Services of North Dakota, or PSND. We recently received a grant from North Dakota Continuum of Care focused on youth and young adult homelessness in North Dakota. And that is what my presentation will be focused on: preventing and ending youth and young adult homelessness in North Dakota. We will focus on our project or our program, which is Pathways to Success in North Dakota Housing Hub. I want to thank Cheryl and Kylie for this opportunity. I will have a period at the end for questions. However, if there is a pressing question, you certainly can ask during the presentation. Cheryl, can you'll monitor for that, correct?
Yes, we will be watching the chat. So if you have questions, just type them into the chat.
Yeah, and again, you don't have to wait. I will have a period at the end, but if there's something pressing that comes along, certainly I am willing to take them. So an overview of today's presentation. I'll talk a little bit about facts about youth and young adult homelessness, both nationally and within North Dakota. I will focus on what the Continuum of Care is, or the North Dakota Continuum of Care, and that will lead into the Youth Homeless Demonstration Project and their coordinated community plan, the description of what Pathways to Success is, and a description of what North Dakota Housing Hub is. And those are the two programs that Pathfinder Services of North Dakota is overseeing. I'll talk a little bit about how you can assist, answer some questions, and give our contact information. So some facts on youth and young adult homelessness, some national facts, and these national facts come from Safe Harbor. On any given night, approximately 41,000 unaccompanied youth and young adults 13 to 25 experience homelessness. When I talk about unaccompanied youth or young adults, I'm talking about youth or young adults that are not with a parent or a legal guardian. They are not experiencing homelessness with a legal guardian or a parent. They are experiencing that on their own. 1 in 30 adolescents ages 13 to 17 experience some form of unaccompanied homelessness throughout a course of a year. 1 in 10 young adults 18 to 25 experience some form of unaccompanied homelessness throughout the course of a year. Now, those are national stats. Let's kind of switch to North Dakota stats. 40% of young adults that aged out of the North Dakota foster care system experienced homelessness. And this is a survey that was provided by the North Dakota Health and Human Services to youth age 19 and 21. This was taken a few years ago, but again, 40% of those young adults that aged out of the North Dakota foster care system have experienced homelessness, and that's quite a lot. And obviously there's a need to focus on youth and young adult homelessness in North Dakota. Housing the Homeless, North Dakota's 10-year plan to end long-term homelessness in 2018 was the first to highlight youth homelessness, or specifically educational homelessness, or the McKinney-Vento homelessness. And that means that youth that are in pre-K to 12th grade anyone experiencing homelessness between pre-K and 12th are captured. And in the 2018 plan to end homelessness, this is the first time that they were captured in that report. Approximately 2,500 school-aged youth experience homelessness per year in North Dakota. I believe that went down during COVID, but again, we had difficulty really identifying youth experiencing homelessness during COVID. We are still struggling with that. Out of the youth that are experiencing homelessness within the educational system, approximately 300 of these youth are identified as unaccompanied homeless youth, or UHY. And again, the definition of unaccompanied homeless is that they are not living with a legal guardian or their parent. And again, I would say I worked at North Dakota Department of Public Instruction for a number of years, and we still weren't being able to adequately identify youth experiencing homelessness. We know that there are more out there. We were increasing our outreach. However, we still are working on that identification process. So, North Dakota Continuum of Care is an organization created to fulfill the responsibilities of homeless emergency assistance and rapid transition to housing act. So the COC is comprised of public and private representation that have come together to plan and provide a homeless response system. Some of you may be familiar with COC. You may be sitting on regional homeless coalitions or actually participating in the COC. I know that Cheryl is sitting on the board as well as I am. But the COC again is comprised of public and private representation that have come together to plan and provide a homeless response system. Some states have multiple COCs. North Dakota only has one, and the one that oversees that is Chanel Willer. Again, we only have one, and the Continuum of Care program is a housing and urban development program designed to promote community-wide commitment to the goal of ending homelessness, provide funding for efforts by nonprofit providers and state and local governments to quickly rehouse individuals and families experiencing or at risk of experiencing homelessness while minimizing the trauma and dislocation caused to homeless individuals, families, and youth and young adults. Promote access to and effect utilization of mainstream programs by individual and families experiencing or at risk of experiencing homelessness. Optimize self-sufficiency among individuals and families. So again, all states have at least one continuum of care. Many states have multiple. Our continuum of care has 5 committees, which is CARES, data, rating and ranking, system performance, and then YAB. YAB is Youth Action Board, and that has just recently come about in the last year and a half, and that is very important to understand related to the Youth Homeless Demonstration Project. The Continuum of Care, North Dakota Continuum of Care, brought together a team or a committee of individuals to apply for the Youth Homeless Demonstration Grant, which we received, and then that committee asked for proposals and received those proposals and designated funds to those that met the threshold. Pathways to Success was one of the programs that developed out of that, as well as North Dakota Housing Hub, which is run out of Pathfinders. So there's a Youth Homeless Demonstration Project core team, and then there are regional teams. And again, Pathways from Success and North Dakota Housing Hub, which Pathfinder oversees, came out of the funds from Youth Homeless Demonstration Project. So what is the mission of Youth Homeless Demonstration Project? Together we strive for North Dakota without youth homelessness. By bringing together youth experience and stakeholder expertise, we envision a North Dakota where all youth are offered supportive services whenever needed. We look to abolish all forms of social injustice, including racism, ableism, and adultism. We envision a community where youth homelessness is non-existent. And again, I mentioned the Youth Action Board. The Youth Homeless Demonstration Project really values that voice of youth who have experienced homelessness. Well, many of us work in the system and may have a background in the area of social services. The youth have lived this experience, and thus they are consultants in regards to what are best practices, what are the barriers within that system that need to be removed. So we very much value the youth voice within the whole Youth Homeless Demonstration Project. And also with Pathfinder's projects, Pathways of Success and North Dakota Housing Hub, we value that voice also. What are the visions of Youth Homeless Demonstration Project? The values are, again, we focus on the youth-led advocacy. We value youth that have experienced homelessness. We see them as consultants because they have experience in regards to what are those barriers within our systems? What are those barriers that are leading to homelessness? And you know, that youth voice is we want to really emphasize because they are consultants and experts in this endeavor. Innovation is so important. Pathways to Success is very different, I think, from a lot of them. We're not necessarily focused on providing housing because we're focused on the rural areas. But we have to think differently and creatively when we're looking at ending homelessness, particularly when we're ending it in rural areas. And so we have to be open to different ideas and have the willingness to kind of try new things. Collaboration, again, we know that ending youth homelessness, not one agency can do it alone. A state entity can't do it alone, an individual agency. We really have to partner together. We believe that every voice has value and no group should ever be excluded from this conversation. And lastly, compassion. We care for each and every youth experiencing homelessness. We believe that kindness, empathy, and humanity should be extended to each and every one of them. So those are the visions of the Youth Homeless Demonstration Project. Again, these visions have, we pull them into Pathways of Success and to the North Dakota Housing Hub. The principles are equity, positive youth development, trauma-informed care, family engagement. Again, people will ask a lot about family engagement because they will say, well, if you're focused on youth and young adults experiencing homelessness, then where is their family? Well, a lot of youth and families do have a relationship, but there's been some issues, and youth will say sometimes, I do really want to work out things with my family. And if that's the case, we definitely want to provide supports and resources for that. Again, if a youth says, no, that is not my interest at this time, that is not my goal and direction, we won't focus on that. Again, it's really dependent on that young adult and what direction they're going. We focus on housing first to youth, unsheltered homelessness, particularly in those rural areas, youth choice and client-driven support, social and community integration, and coordinated entry. Now, I know I'm going kind of a higher level with the Youth Homeless Demonstration Project, but all of these principles, this mission and values, they all are reflected in the Pathways to Success and North Dakota Housing Hub projects. We have 4 committees with the Youth Homeless Demonstration Project. We have the Stable Housing Committee, we have the Education Committee, we have the Employment Committee, and we have the Overall Health and Well-Being committee. So again, if any of you are interested in those committees, please let me know. Again, Chanel Willer oversees this, but I sit on the education one, and I also oversee the overall health and well-being one, and we're always looking for new members. And if you're interested, my contact information is at the end of this presentation. So the types of projects that individuals and agencies could apply for under the Youth Homeless Demonstration Project were permanent supportive housing, system navigation, diversion and rapid rehousing, and HMIS. What Pathways to Success or Pathfinders applied was for the system navigation. So Pathways to Success and North Dakota Housing Hub are programs that are under system navigations. We do not directly provide housing, but we provide other supports and services. So, well, Pathways to Success and North Dakota Housing Hub are statewide. Again, Pathways to Success focuses working directly with youth and young adults. So we are focused really on the 42 rural communities across North Dakota. We will take referrals from any of those areas. However, when looking at our data, and that was pulled from North Dakota Department of Public Instruction, looking at their McKinney-Vento or their educational data on the number of homeless youth in the educational system, as well as PID counts, we really targeted Region 1 and Region 3 because they were highly rural and they had high numbers of youth and young adult homelessness. So again, we will take referrals from any area, but we are targeting Region 1, which is Divide, Williams, and McKenzie, and Region 3, which is Rolette, Towner, Cavalier, Ramsey, Eddy, and Benson. So digging into Pathways to Success. Pathways to Success provides some supports and services. First of all, we provide navigational assistance. We help youth develop a plan of action, and we provide peer mentoring. Our target date for starting is January 1st. We started in October. However, the first 3 months were set aside for development and hiring. When we talk about navigational assistance, again, we're looking for youth that are in rural areas. And in rural areas, actually across North Dakota, there are not a whole lot of resources for youth or young adults experiencing homelessness. There are definitely some, YouthWorks comes to mind. Again, we have State McKinney-Vento, but again, that infrastructure really isn't there. And then when you look into the rural areas, it is really lacking. And so we are focused on those rural areas and working with those youth directly who are interested in working with us. We will work with them to develop a plan of action based, again, on their goals. What is their goal? It may be graduating from high school. It may be going to college. It may be securing a job. It may be getting an apprenticeship. Again, we will work individually with that youth, really assessing their strengths and needs. And this would be a collaborative process. It's not me going in or those that are employed by Pathfinders and dictating. It is really saying to the youth, what do you want? What are you looking at? And if they say we want to graduate school, okay, what are those barriers that are getting in the way? What are the strengths that can be put in to support that youth? And again, we will be hiring peer mentors. We will be focusing on the kind of the Devil's Lake area and the Williston area, or those Region 1, Region 3 areas to put in peer mentors first. And then we will look at some other areas. And again, we're looking at infrastructure development. It's not a main goal with Pathways to Success or North Dakota Housing Hub, but we hope that with working with rural counties, and also working with individuals, youth, and young adults within those rural communities, that we can do a better job at infrastructure development to really assist youth and young adults that are experiencing homelessness, so that there are readily known supports or processes in which the youth can reach out. So Pathways to Success process, and I'll just talk a little bit about this. To provide a referral, I think Cheryl and Kylie, I sent information. We have a paper process right now. You don't need to use that paper process. For example, I just got a referral last week where the individual called me and said, Beth, I know this young person. Here's some background information. Can I send them to you? Would you be willing to meet with them? That was the referral process. And so the young person called me, and we had met last week to start the intake process. There is a paper process, and once we get North Dakota Housing Hub up, which will be a website and also an individual to provide kind of some soft handoff, a call-in center, we will have a form online to fill out. So once a referral is provided to us, or a youth contacts us, we will meet with the youth and screen to meet criteria. If the youth doesn't meet criteria, it doesn't mean that we're just going to say, see you later, and that's it. No, we're not going to do that. Again, we're going to do some soft handoffs so that youth is plugged in, or that young adult is plugged in. So there are supports that are around them. Again, we will be using coordinated point of entry, which is so important. So we get some really good information into the number of youth and young adults that are experiencing housing insecurity. We meet with that youth, and again, that youth is providing that direction of where we're going. They are the ones in the lead saying, okay, I want to graduate. Obviously, housing is something that we will be looking at, but we do not provide housing. So we will be helping that youth trying to secure housing. One thing I found that when I worked for North Dakota Department of Public Instruction, some of our youth that were experiencing homelessness as unaccompanied youth were living with, there were times that they were living with teachers, or that they met someone at a church that they attended that they lived with. So they were in a good position, and they were very safe, and they were living in a situation where, it was safe. There were times, however, that these youth are very in situations that are bad, that are at risk of trafficking. So again, when we go into rural communities and meet with a youth, obviously we're looking at housing and that crisis planning to make sure that youth is safe. There is not a lot of options, but we're going to have to look at some innovative planning for that youth. Many youth want to stay within their school and graduate with a school because they do have that support. And it's important to try to meet that youth where they are and provide the supports. We will do a strengths and needs assessment with that youth, which really focuses on their strengths and their needs tied to that overarching goal, be it graduating from school, if it's finding housing, if it is going to college, apprenticeship, finding a job, whatever that overarching goal, we'll use their strengths and their needs really to develop that action plan and that safety plan. So the plan of action, we have a domain area. So when we meet with a youth, we'll talk about a number of areas. We look at housing and crisis planning, and those two actually go together. Like I said, in rural communities, sometimes youth, especially if they're in the educational setting, will be living with an adult that is not a legal guardian. And again, we have to make sure that youth is safe and that there's a crisis plan in place for those youth. Again, the rural areas are very difficult in regards to finding that housing element. And again, if you're under 18, there's not a lot of options either for shelters or to rent. And so we'll be looking at some really innovative options with community partners in regards to options for these youth. With the youth driving the plan, I think it's very important to emphasize this. We'll be focused on family. Again, some youth want to have that family relationship, but they're just, it's been broken off. Basic needs, you know, food, shelter, clothing, transportation, a number of those basic needs, employment, education, health, spiritual community, and connectedness. So we will be sitting down with that youth or young adult and really going over all these areas and what they see as a goal for themselves or what they want to achieve. And this is just an example of the plan of action. So you will have your long-term vision for the youth, and we'll be looking at each domain area. Each domain area won't have necessarily a measurable goal. The measurable goal will come from that long-term vision, but we will have action steps just so that we can make sure that all of us, whether it's, you know, the youth and myself or the youth in a team, is really going in that direction and that we're all accountable. We will also, again, be hiring peer mentors. That should be going out in the next couple of weeks, where we very much want to have youth that have experienced the foster care system or experienced housing insecurity. These peer mentors will help conduct coordinated entry screenings, perform outreach activities, engaging youth and young adults who are experiencing homelessness. They will conduct strengths and needs assessment. They'll work with the youth and young adults to develop those plans of action. Provision of transportation, which is really critical in rural areas. You know, even right now in Bismarck, there's issues with transportation, but oftentimes in rural areas, that transportation is a huge issue. The mentors will provide information, referrals, linkages, and advocacy to the youth and young adults, and accessing services and supports, advocate on their behalf, and support them to advocate. Again, we really believe in that youth and young adult voice, and we want them to advocate on their behalf. However, sometimes that can be a really difficult thing to do. And so we will be standing by them and assisting them to advocate, but we really want them to develop that voice on their own. And one of the ways we will be doing this is a lot of the youth, we will be talking to them about the Youth Action Board. I think having a committee or a community that you can turn to, youth that have experienced homelessness before, is one of the best things for youth and young adults, because they know that they're not alone, and they can also see youth that have been in their situation and are doing better and on their way to the goal. And that is so very, or can be so very powerful. And so one of those things that I will be utilizing a lot is that Youth Action Board. And that's also why we put we're hiring peer mentors. We want youth to realize that, you know, yeah, this is a huge struggle and we'll help you navigate, but there's options and we're going to assist you. And again, looking at youth that were in similar situations and are on the road to meeting those goals, that's some of the most powerful things that can occur. Ensure records, attend community resource meetings, represent and create visibilities for pathways to success, and work as active members. So those are some of the peer mentor responsibilities. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about North Dakota Housing Hub, and this will be up and running in January, the shell of it, and we'll be building onto it. There are many places where one can go and look and try to find resources. What our hope is with North Dakota Housing Hub is to have a website that really looks at resources for those experiencing housing insecurity and food insecurity. Yes, we're focused on youth and young adult homelessness, but overall, we want to look at all housing insecurity and food insecurity. So a family could use this site or call into this site. We are looking at it's a website, a call center where there's a soft handoff. And I'll give you an example. In between where I was working at North Dakota Department of Public Instruction, and this position at Pathfinder. Prior to getting the grant, we were working with homelessness. However, I got a call from a individual that had gotten my name, and she explained that she had a young youth in their home that was currently living with them, an unaccompanied homeless youth, and she had called multiple entities and gotten different information from different people, and was very confused and wanted assistance in trying to keep this youth with her and her husband in her house, but she was concerned about the kind of the legal ramifications. And so I assisted with her, and instead of just sending her someplace, I worked and did some calls and really got some information. Unfortunately, it was so late that the husband decided, nope, it was so chaotic that they just could not take the risk. And so what we want to do is really make sure that when somebody is calling, they're not going to have to call 10 or 20 different places, that we can provide them here. Why don't you call this place? If you don't get that information, then we will help you. Kind of that soft handoff, so that we don't have people being sent different places but not getting that answer. And that's really what we want to develop with the North Dakota Housing Hub. One of the things that we will be doing, and Cheryl and Kylie has the paper document, is really getting agencies to fill out a agency form and send it back to us so that we can list it, again, with a little blurb of what you can provide or what you can support, because we really want to do that soft handoff. So that means that we need to be very cognizant about the supports out there, the kind of categorical supports, but also those supports that are out there that may be non-categorical and innovative. And I'll give you an example. I had started going through a resource list out of Williston, I think Watford City, and there was a phone number for LSS. Well, LSS has gone out of business, but I got I believe, I'm not really sure she had to do with apartments, and I was just so kind of knocked off my feet by her, because she was like, nope, we have market price apartments. However, I'm very interested in this, and I'd be interested in being involved. We have jobs. I also have a large house. I'd be interested in any assistance I can provide, because I'd like to be involved in the effort to eradicating youth and young adult homelessness. So that's some of the non-categorical supports that we're trying to find, and kind of, okay, here's somebody who really wants to be involved, and they have some resources and are willing to hire youth or young adults that want to work and may not have that resume built up. So again, that's what we want to have the North Dakota Housing Hub become. The website conception right now, we'll have a page for Pathways to Success, which will give you a referral form, will give you information on the peer mentors, my role. It will give you all the information to that direct navigation or coordination. We will have a link to the COC and the Youth Homeless Demonstration Project, because obviously that is the hub of everything, and that Pathways to Success and North Dakota Housing Hub really funnel up to that COC YHDP. We'll have regional resources, so it will be broke down regionally, and those resources will be categorical and non-categorical, and it will be helpful if entities on today's call can fill out one of those documents and send it back, so we can start beefing up the North Dakota Housing Hub. We will have educational resources or McKinney-Vento resources. Then upcoming activities or notices. I also think we will have, and I need to talk to the Youth Action Board, kind of a site for them, because I again think that they are critical in this. And so if they want a page, they can have a page, and I think it would be wonderful for them to have a page on this. So that will be kind of the setup for the North Dakota Housing Hub. So we'll have that website. We will also have a phone number to call so that a person looking, whether it be agency, a family, a youth, or young adult, we can provide that soft handoff and assist them with finding necessary resources. We don't want a person kind of calling 10 places and just feeling exhausted and like there's no hope or answer. We will work with that person calling in to kind of figure out if there's an option here. If not, what can we do innovatively? How can you assist? Again, collaboration. Anyone on the call interested in participating in a youth homeless demonstration project, I can give you Chanel's name. Cheryl can. We have committees, as I indicated. Thinking outside the box, I will be reaching out to rural communities. I have a series of presentations set up, and we'll start working with youth. But again, we're going to have to think outside the box to support these youth and young adults within rural communities. Share information and complete information sheets. If you know a youth, please refer them to myself or Pathfinders. Share information in regards to your agency, even if you don't deem your agency an entity that traditionally can assist with youth and young adult homelessness. Maybe you can. Again, we want to be looking at the non-traditional too, or how you could possibly help. If you have questions, give me a call. And again, provide referrals. We don't start until January 1st, but I have accepted referrals just because of the need. And so if you have a referral, we definitely will take those now. My contact information is Beth Larson Steckler, Pathways to Success Coordinator, and I'm also a support specialist at Pathfinder. My work phone number is 701-837-7503. But my cell phone number, and this is a good way to reach me because I am on the road a lot, is 701-202-1522. I'll say that again because we didn't have that on here. 701-202-1522. And again, that's it. I'd love for your questions, thoughts, comments. Cheryl, do we have any?
There is one question so far.
Okay.
What is involved in volunteering? Do we meet online, since I am way up in the northeast corner of the state?
With the Youth Homeless Demonstration Project, I can give you Chanel's name. The committees actually meet via Zoom. And if you want to be involved with the COC, they meet via Zoom too. I'm not sure if you're involved with the homeless coalition in your area. You can give me a call. And again, it's 837-7503. But for that Youth Homeless Demonstration Project, we are looking for people, to be involved with that. And we have those 4 committees, and you can give me a call and I can give Chanel your number. If you want to discuss that more. A lot of that is on Zoom. Does that answer?
There's just kind of a comment. This person said, again, I am dumbfounded by the numbers of this homeless age group. I have lived here my whole life and just never saw it.
It is, I hear that all the time. When I work for the North Dakota Department of Public Instruction, we had that comment quite a lot. And I do want to provide a little bit of information in regards to the different definitions, because this makes it really difficult. With McKinney-Vento, there's McKinney-Vento that comes out of HUD, but there's 2 different definitions. There's one for education and then there is one for community. So the education definition, you can be experiencing homelessness if you're in the shelter, if you're living with someone else, if you're unaccompanied. The other definition that is focused on accessing shelters is that you have to be, you know, kind of out on that street or in a shelter. In North Dakota, what you see in regards to homelessness is that youth and young adults are not necessarily going to be out on the streets or in a shelter. There are not shelters that take 18 and under. They will take 18 and older. What we see is we see a lot of couch surfing. And what that looks like is that you stay one place with a friend until they wear out their welcome to another place. We also see with young adults in McKinney-Vento that I saw that teachers at times stepped up and said, you can stay with me. Or there was a person in the community that kind of stepped up to mentor that youth and said, come live with me. Or there was, you know, a pastor that said, come live with me. But we also have instances where those youth are not living in a safe place. They're couch surfing and they're susceptible to trafficking. They're susceptible to, okay, I'm giving you a place to live, so you owe me. So youth are there. They are not, when you look at homelessness, I know what comes to mind oftentimes is a person on the street corner with a sign, but actually more families and youth are experiencing homelessness. And that's really hard to kind of grasp because we have really presented that one image. Again, we do have veterans that are experiencing homelessness, but we have youth and young adults, we have families, and we have veterans and individuals that may have, you know, disabilities. Any other questions, Cheryl's, or comments?
If we have a youth in Grand Forks, would the meetings be held in person or via Zoom or Teams?
Oh, okay. If you're talking about identifying a youth, what you would do is provide a referral. Myself or our team would go out to meet that youth. We do understand that Zoom, we're going to have to utilize Zoom, but we also believe that that connection with that youth is important to make. It's important to sit down with them and meet with them face to face. So if we got a referral, we will go out and meet with that youth individually. And then from there, we will develop what direction we're going. Do they have members that they want on the team? Do they want to develop that with just the mentor or myself? But we will go out and meet with them. Does that answer the question? Because again, we don't want to necessarily just meet via Zoom. That face-to-face is important. That relationship is important. I think it's very critical for youth and young adults to have that face-to-face connection. And we also would introduce them to the YAB if they're interested. They can be involved. They don't have to be involved. But again, that community is so important. So really helping that youth and young adult, if they're interested, to build up that community and support. But in other situations, like ongoing, we may have a Zoom meeting, but initially that will be face-to-face contact.
Are there any more questions for Beth?
If not, I just really want to emphasize, you know, for whoever's on, Cheryl and Kylie will send out the agency documents, and truly, please fill those out so that we can really build up this North Dakota Housing Hub. We want to get all those supports and services on that website. You know, even if it's non-traditional, that's great, or categorical, but it's really important because we want to know that what resources are out there so we can assist youth. We will be developing beefing up that website when we go in and working with youth too. So if we're working with a youth and we come across a resource, whether category or non-categorical that we're using in the plan, we'll identify it. But that collaborative approach to sharing that information is so important for this program, so that we can assist youth more easily. I'd really appreciate you, filling out that document and getting it back. Also, if you know of a youth between the ages of 14 and 24 that is experiencing homelessness, please let them know about Pathways to Success.
All right, well, there doesn't seem to be any more questions. Thank you again, Beth, for taking time out to present. I know you're super busy. So this was great information, and
No, thank you. Thank you, Cheryl and Kylie, and then everybody who sat on and listened to this information. I really appreciate it. And again, if you can help, we would love that. So
and
thank
just
you.
yep, just so everyone knows, Marilyn did send out all that documentation ahead of time. So if you haven't checked your email, it should be in there for you guys to print off and look at. Again, like Cheryl mentioned at the beginning, please take a few minutes and fill out the survey that once that is sent to you. We appreciate any and all feedback. We just have 2 more presentations for this session. Next week, we have Jennifer Henderson with North Dakota Housing Finance presenting on the housing study for North Dakota. And then our last presentation is on December 13th, which will be compassion fatigue. So hopefully everybody can join us for those last 2 sessions. Again, take a few minutes to fill out that survey. And if you need a participation certificate, please email Marilyn and she will get that sent out to you. But other than that, thank you again, Beth. And I hope you all have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.